Alright guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today. For this one, we are going to do another out and about video. I'm still in Rijeka in Croatia, and we are going to have a look at the older brew pub in the city. So this place you see behind me is called Flumen Pub, and their brewery is Pivovara Flumen. So we'll do as we always do. We'll go in, we'll have a look around, we'll taste some of the beers, have a look at the menus and all this. So yeah, let's crack on with this one. Really cool to be filming for you here in Croatia. Let's get started. Alright guys, so here you can see the outside of the Flumen Pub, and there is the little sign there for Pivovara Flumen. But yeah, they've got this lovely little outdoor bit. Just down this road here is the train station where we were at King's Brewpub, and then back up there you head towards the main central part of the city. But yeah, Rijeka, of course, in Croatian, Rijeka means river, and then Flumen is one of the old names. One of the ancient names for Rijeka. So literally Rijeka, river city, Flumen, one of the ancient names. But yeah, they have this lovely area out here. But then you go inside this thing and it looks very much like a kind of old Czech pub or something like this. So this is pretty cool. You can see the inside of here. It's a little bit, the camera's still picking up this quite nicely, but yeah, you can see it's very much kind of Czech in nature. But yeah, when you remember that Croatia was part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire for a good while, this makes sense. But yeah, this is the inside of Flumen Pub. But you can see my beers have arrived. Ryan's sitting chilling. So let's have a little look at these beers and see how we get on. We've got a nice little selection here, so let's get started. Alright guys, so these are the 4 beers that we're going to look at. So this one is the wheat beer, this is the red lager, the dark lager, and then we have the IPA. So we're going to take a look at 4 this time. Nice small measures just for tasting. So let's get started. We're going to start with the wheat and we'll work our way from light to dark as we always do. Alright guys, well, time for our first beer tasting then here at Flumen Pub. So the first beer we're going to take a look at is the wheat beer, Hefeweizen, whatever you want to call it. So when this beer poured, it had about a half finger of a frothy, I would say, perfect white head. That has faded down a little bit now, but you can see that colour-wise, this one is actually like quite a pale yellow. This is definitely one of the lighter coloured Hefeweizens or wheat beers I've come across in recent times. It looks a little bit more like a Belgian wit in appearance, I would say. But yeah, not too much in the way of visible carbonation. 1 or 2 big bubbles at the bottom of the glass, a few little ones going up toward the bottom of the head. But overall, it looks pretty nice, pretty much what you would expect from this style of beer. So yeah, let's have a look at the aroma of this one and see what we get. Yeah, aroma-wise, straight away, it smells like a German Hefeweizen, but it smells very light. But remember, of course, Croatia, pretty hot country, they're going to want beers that are quite light and quite sessionable down here. For me, a Hefeweizen, I used to be able to drink quite a lot of them, but to me now that it's more of a kind of taste style, it's a little bit of a treat kind of thing. I like to have these as tasting beers rather than session beers. So yeah, you can smell that this one is a little bit lighter and kind of crisp in a sense. So, on the malty side of things then, and the yeasty side, it's exactly what you'd expect. There's a little bit of bread crust in there, some fresh white bread, yeah, a little bit of bread crust, fresh white bread, and then on top of that you're getting the kind of yeasty notes out of this one. You get that kind of lovely banana, bubblegummy sort of thing, but you're also getting the kind of clovey spice out of this one. What I'll say about this beer is though, that on the malty, yeasty side of things, it's actually really, really nicely balanced. You've got a little bit of everything. Yeah, everything goes together. That sweet banana, the big bready notes, the clovey spices in there, and then you've got that kind of candied bubblegummy note on top of it. It smells really nice from that side of things. Yeah, on the hoppy side of the beer, remember this is not the most hoppy of styles. These beers are normally about 15 IBUs, something like that. But on the hoppy side of things, this one you get a little touch of smooth earthiness. There's a little bit of a kind of herbal note to it, a wee bit of floral character, but to me the green component really leans toward a more kind of smooth, grassy element. But yeah, very smooth, very, very grassy, I would say, rather than anything else. Yeah, on the fruity side of things, it's what you'd expect. From the yeast, you're getting the kind of banana notes. There's definitely a bit of an apricot-y character, maybe a wee bit of papaya, stuff like that. You know, a little bit of a pear and a little bit of a kind of grassy, citrusy element to this one. But in terms of what you'd expect aroma-wise from a Hefeweizen, I think there's nothing really out of place here, and it smells pretty nice. So yeah, let's have a taste of this one then and see how we get on. So this beer is simply called Wheat, a Hefeweizen. It doesn't say on the menu or the tap what percentage of alcohol this one is, but yeah, let's just have a taste of it and see how we go. Slange, skål, cheers, ziveli. Ooh, that's quite nice actually. A bit thicker and creamier than I expected it to be. But yeah, it really gets very, very creamy the further into the taste that you go, but that's a nice Hefeweizen. That is very nice and very easy going. So yeah, I think I'm going to enjoy this one. It actually gives you a good little bit of sweetness the further you go into the aftertaste as well, which is interesting. So yeah, let's break this beer down for you as we always do. So, middle third of your palate, backbone of the beer, a little bit of a fresh white bread crust. On top of that, you can feel that quite dense but still soft and fluffy white bread. Toward the back of the palate, you're getting some of the more yeasty elements out of the beer. I think the kind of clovey spice is showing up in the bread further back on the palate. But as you move further forward, you start to get the kind of candied banana flavours and a little bit of bubblegum in there. There's maybe a tiny little hint of like a biscuit, like a McVitie's digestive biscuit in the very middle of the palate. But yeah, overall it does go together really quite nicely from the malty, yeasty side of things. Very fresh, very fluffy. I really like this. It gets a big thumbs up from me. Pretty awesome. Yeah, don't think there's anything else we need to say about the malty side of this beer. Hoppy side of things. Back corners of the palate, you've got a little bit of earthiness there, you can feel that. So yeah, a little touch of earthiness in this one. But as you move further forward, that smoothens out, you get a little bit of herbal character, a little bit floral on the front corners of the palate, round the front curve of the tongue. It's a little bit lighter and more grassy, so very light, nice grassiness, some wee touch of zest as well, which I do like. But I think that is everything we need to say about the flavour profile of this one. So mouthfeel wise, this one for me, top end of light body, bottom end of mid body. Carbonation is very smooth. It has an element of creaminess which you would expect from the Hefeweizen. And then you've also just got that little bit of it's got a little bit of that kind of wet fruitiness there, but you get a bit of dried fruit out of this the further into the aftertaste that you go. But yeah, that's a nice Hefeweizen. I like this one. It gets a thumbs up from me. Not a style that I drink all that much these days, but when I get the chance to try them, they're always quite interesting. I wasn't sure what to expect from the more kind of traditional Brewpub type places in Croatia, but yeah, Weizen seem to be quite popular. But let's leave it at that for this one. We'll go on to our second tasting in just a minute. Alright guys, so a little look at the menu for you here then in Flumen Pub. So yeah, they have quite an extensive beer list. Apparently there are 11 different beers on tap. We'll come to that in a second. But yeah, you can see they've got some bottled beer, Kozel, Budweiser. As I say, this place really reminds me of some of the Czech pubs that I've been into. But yeah, some hot drinks down here. They've got a few different wines and stuff like this. Non-alcoholic drinks, fizzy juice, soda, whatever you want to call it. And then yeah, they've got some liqueurs up here. But yeah, let's have a little look at the beers. So remember, first off, that about 7.5 kuns is €1. So £1 is probably about 8. Maybe a little bit more than that just now, and $1 American is probably about 7. But yeah, they have a light lager, a red lager, a dark lager. These ones that have different colours listed there, red and dark, they did say that these were like beer blends, so I'm not 100% sure about these. They have some wheat beers, IPA, the black IPA, and a dark wheat beer, and also Pan Gold, which is I guess that's just a sort of light lager. But yeah, that is a quick look at the menu for you here at Flumen Pub, and you can see the price of a beer for half a litre is about 20 kuns, so that's just a little bit shy of €3. So not bad at all. Alright guys, well, time for beer tasting number 2. So the next one In Croatian it's called Crveno. Apologies if I butchered that, but in English that is literally red, as in the colour. So yeah, this beer, I was saying, is a kind of red lager, but to me it looks a little bit like a kind of Czech amber, like a Czech Letzak, something like that. Maybe it could be a Vienna lager. I'm not overly sure what to expect from this one, to be honest with you. But yeah, we'll just need to see. You can see it's got this lovely kind of mahogany colour to it. One or two big bubbles at the bottom of the glass, a few little ones going up toward the bottom of the head steadily. But yeah, it looks good. When this beer poured, it had about, a half finger of a frothy, I would say kind of fawn creamy coloured head. That's faded away now, of course. But yeah, this one, it looks somewhere between like a Dunkel and a Vienna lager, maybe somewhere along those lines, or a bit dark, I think, maybe to be a Czech Letzak. But remember, colour of your beer depends on the type of malts that you use, length of your wort oil, and so on. But yeah, let's have a look at the aroma and see what we can expect from this one. Yeah, I'm going to say straight away, the aroma of this beer doesn't jump out of the glass at you. It's quite subtle in a lot of ways. Yeah, so it's quite brown sugary, a little bit of grassiness on the hop, and yeah, a little bit of a kind of bready note to it. But let's break it down a wee bit more. So the backbone of the beer, sort of brown bready, like a fresh wholemeal bread. A little bit of woodiness in there, a little touch of nuttiness, and on top of that you've got different brown sugars. So this beer has a little bit of a sweet caramel, there's a little bit of a kind of toffee butterscotch thing, and maybe a little bit of McVitie's digestive biscuit. So yeah, quite interesting this one. It's actually very, very sweet in its nose. So yeah, I'm not sure what this is going to give us. I think other than that, on the malty side of things, I don't think there's too much to say. So on the hoppy side of the beer, there's a little bit of light earthiness once again. It's obviously like noble hops, maybe Slovenian or German, something like that. So yeah, a little bit of a smooth earthiness, a wee touch of herbal character. You do get a little bit of floral note out of this one, but for me, the green component really leans toward like a wet, a fresh, wet cut grass kind of thing. That's what I get out of this one more than anything else. On the fruity side of things, it's got a little bit of like sultana, like dry white green grapes. I'm getting that. But then there's a little hint of like a red fruity sort of thing, maybe a teeny little bit of fig or a little bit of blackcurrant or something like this. It actually reminds me, the fruity notes you get out of this one actually remind me of when like sour beer can become infected. It kind of smells like that. It's got that sultana, as I say, sultana blackcurranty type thing to it. Yeah, aroma on this one's quite unusual, but very kind of sweet and a little bit fruity. So yeah, let's have a taste of this one and see how we get on. So yeah, the Crveno, if I've said that right in Croatian, red in English. Again, it doesn't say what the percentage alcohol of this beer is. So let's just have a taste. Slanje, skål, cheers, Sveli. Yeah. This is a Vienna lager. I'm going to say that straight away. I was questioning for about the first 5-6 seconds there when I took it in, but I'm going to say straight away, just from the flavour profile, this is absolutely a Vienna lager. I'll tell you why in a second. This is a nice Vienna lager. This one is actually a little bit more akin to the ones that I've had from the Vienna area. So yeah, you can taste that right away. So let's break this down for you then. So in the middle of your palate, you can feel there's a little bit of that kind of grainy. You get a little bit of that sort of grainy bread crusty character with this one. That forms the backbone of the beer. On top of that, you have a really nice, smooth, like fresh German rye bread sort of thing. I always miss that from when I lived in Rijeka, the German rye bread. But yeah, you get that kind of slightly dry bread crust, the fresh German rye bread, then on top of that you're getting the brown sugars. So it's like a very lightly toasted caramel that you get out of this one. And it's the kind of graininess of the brown bread and the sort of toastiness of the brown sugar that makes this beer a Vienna lager for me. Again, it kind of makes sense that this beer is popular in Croatia because, you know, back in the day, Croatia was part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, go figure. But yeah, on top of the toasty brown sugars, in the dead centre of the palate, you get a little bit of a more oily caramel note out of this one, but you're also getting little bits of, you know, kind of biscuity, cookie-like flavours toward the edge of that middle third of your palate then. Other than mentioning there's maybe a little bit of a crackery, woody sort of thing toward the front of the middle third of your tongue, I don't think there's anything else we need to say about the malty side of this beer. Let's move on to the hoppy side of it. So yeah, hoppy side of things then. Back corners of the palate, you have a nice little bit of earthiness there. As you move further forward, it gives you a little touch of a herbal character. Not too much. As you reach the front corners of the palate, it's a little bit, you do get a little bit of a floral note out of it. Then round the front curve of the tongue, it's a little bit lighter and grassy. So yeah, all typical kind of noble hop characteristics. Yeah, I like that. So front third of the palate and the fruity side of things. The base of the front third of the palate is kind of smooth and brown bready. On top of that, you get a little bit of the kind of red fruity notes. So for me, it's got a little bit of that kind of sultana, dried white green grapey notes. There's a little bit of a black curranty note just sitting on top of that. So yeah, that's quite nice, I have to say. I do like how that goes together. This is a really nice Vienna lager. It's very authentic when I think about the ones that I've had brewed in the Vienna area. So I like this. I do like this one. Actually, these beers, they're traditional. They're obviously kind of traditional Central European beers, and they seem pretty well made actually. So yeah, on the mouthfeel then, just to round off. Mouthfeel wise, top end of light bodied, carbonation is very, very smooth. Kind of a wet mouthfeel, but at the same time it's got a little bit of an oily slickness to it. Malty base, as I say, quite smooth, quite sweet. Yeah, quite smooth and quite sweet. A little bit of dryness out of it. The hoppy side of things, I think this is, you know, if you're lucky, I think this is going to be 20 IBUs. It's not going to blow the head off you in terms of bitterness, and there's just a little bit of fruity character to it. So yeah, a very nice beer, this one. The Cerveno, or red as it would be in English, from Pivovara Flumen. Let's leave it at that for this one. Let's go on to beer number 3 in just a second. So yeah guys, this was right next to the table, Krepat Mane Molat for the Rijeka Carnival. I thought that was pretty heavy metal, I liked it. And just over here as well, you can get a better look at the Flumen brewery logo. So pretty nice. I think these artworks are very cool. Alright guys, well, time for beer tasting number 3 then here at Flumen Pub. So, beer number 3 is going to be the IPA. I was going to do the dark lager, but then I thought, you know, maybe a little bit too much brown sugar before we have the IPA. But anyway, as you can see with this one, it looks a little bit more like a kind of West Coast IPA. When it poured, it had about a finger of a frothy, I would say kind of cream coloured head. 1 or 2 big bubbles at the bottom of the glass, but a steady stream of smaller ones going up toward the bottom of the head there. And you can see that it's quite nice and hazy. It is quite nice and hazy, this one, but I don't think this is going to be a New England. I'm going to say that straight away. I think this is going to be like an unfiltered West Coast. But you can see the colour of this one is a nice kind of rich amber, which is typical of the kind of West Coasty IPAs. But yeah, it looks pretty nice, I have to say, just a kind of small batch brewed IPA. So yeah, let's have a look at the aroma of this one then and see how we get on. I'm very curious about this actually, considering that this is like a Czech, it seems to be like a Czech style brewpub. Oh yeah, straight away you can tell West Coast IPA all the way. So for me, aroma of this beer, very butterscotchy, very juicy and fruity, and then it's got a nice green component to it as well. So let's break that down for you a little bit more. So backbone of the beer, absolutely, like a little bit of bread crust, a little bit of a fresh white bread crust. On top of that, you're getting some like fresh fluffy white bread, a little bit of wholemeal bread in there too, but there's quite a bit of brown sugar to this one. You can smell a straight up kind of sweet caramel, but you've also got a little bit of that kind of butter candy, butterscotchy type thing coming out of this one. Yeah, and it's got a little bit of kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity character to it as well. It almost smells like, you know, it almost smells like some of the kind of homebrewed West Coast IPAs that I've tried. It really has that sort of vibe to it. I'm not sure how big a scale they brew on, in fact, but yeah, it's quite interesting. It's quite interesting just how this one smells. It really does remind me of a few of the homebrewed West Coast IPAs that I've had, with that big butter candy, toffee, butterscotchy sort of thing that it has. But yeah, this is a sweet caramel, bit of that butterscotchy, butter candy kind of thing, and a wee bit of McVitie's digestive biscuit. Other than that, I don't think there's anything else to say about the malty side of the beer. So let's go on to the hoppy side of things. So yeah, hoppy side of this beer for me, it's actually quite bright in its green component. There's a little teeny bit of earthiness, but not a lot. The green component really leans toward a more kind of floral side of things. It's got quite a bright floral aromaticity, but at the front of the nose, it's a little touch zesty and more kind of grassy, in fact. So yeah, this goes together quite nicely. Yeah. On the fruity side of things, for me, it's actually, I find this one quite orangey. I do wonder if it's a bit of Amarillo or Mandarina Bavaria or something like that that's in this. It feels very, very familiar, but I get a lot of juicy orange out of this one. Yeah, for me, juicy orange all the way. I think this is Mandarina Bavaria from Germany or Amarillo from America. Something like that. Yeah. I'm trying to see if there's maybe a little bit of like mango or something underneath, so I think it could be like Citra, or maybe a little bit of Citra and a little bit of Amarillo. There's just something very familiar about the fruity component of this beer. But yeah, this I think could be quite interesting to try. Let's do this then. So yeah, this one is the IPA. I'm just going to check the Czech name of it. Yeah, it's just called IPA in Croatian as well. But yeah, this I think should be quite nice. No idea what ABV it is, but let's have a taste and see how we go. Slange, skål, cheers, živeli. It's quite interesting. It's definitely West Coasty in nature, but it's very bready. It's a very, very bready, kind of smooth IPA, this one, that's for sure. It's a little bit old school. It is like, you know, it is like a really, really very homebrewed taste in IPA, this one, so I like that. Yeah, I think this goes together really quite nicely. Yeah, this is the sort of beer, it's kind of growing on me the more that I drink of it. This is like some of the ones that I try from the very small breweries in Sweden or from home brewers that send me the kind of things. It's very much like that. No idea how long they'll have been doing this beer for, but it has that nice kind of rawness to it. And I like it when you get beers like this, you just get that sort of homebrew, very small batch vibe to them. Let's break this down for you though and just describe it a wee bit more in depth. Yeah, so middle third of your palate, a little bit of bread crust again. On top of that, you've got a mix of like a fluffy, fresh white bread. There's a little bit of wholemeal bread sitting on top of that too. Toward the front of that middle third of your palate, there is a little touch of a slightly woody character to it as well, which is kind of interesting. But on top of that, it's very butterscotchy. It's very, there's a lot of like butterscotchy, butter candy, Werther's Original type flavours to this one, or Werther's. I recently learned that Werther's is actually Werther's is German. So yeah, you get a lot of this. You get a lot of this butterscotchy, butter candy type flavour. In the dead centre of the palate, you might get a little bit of a straight up caramel, but toward the toward the edge of the palate, you get a bit more of a McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a bit of Maris Otter, English Maris Otter in this. Again, there's something just a little bit familiar about the slightly brown bready notes and the kind of brown sugary notes you're getting out of this one. But on the hoppy side of things, back corners of the palate, a little bit earthy as you come further forward, wee touch herbal, some floral aromaticity at the front corners of the palate, then round the front curve of the tongue, it's a little bit lighter and more grassy. So yeah, I like how that goes together. The green component isn't too big and isn't too bold in that sense, but it works. So front third of your palate and the fruity side of things. Base of that front third of your palate is a nice kind of smooth white bread, and on top of that you get that oily bubble where the fruity esters roll their way out of the beers. It's pretty much, as I said, with the aroma. Toward the back of that front third of your palate, there's a wee tiny touch of passion fruit and a bit of mango, I suspect citra, but then as you go toward the front half of that front third of your palate, it's all about the big oily orange, and that's got to be Mandarina Bavaria or Amarillo. So yeah, this goes together really quite nicely in that sense, yeah. Yeah, this is nice. I mean, the more that I drink of it, the more I get used to the breadiness and the more easy drinking it becomes, actually. So yeah, quite happy with this, quite happy with it. But definitely, stylistically speaking, definitely West Coast, but one of the more bready West Coast beers that I've come across. It actually reminds me of some of the German brewed West Coast IPAs that I've had with that nice breadiness. But yeah, mouthfeel wise, mid-bodied, right in the middle of the spectrum. Carbonation is smooth in this one. It has that real bready character to it, as we've said. IBUs, I think this might be about 50 or 60 IBUs. It does leave a little bit of bitterness on the palate, and that works quite nicely. But yeah, the green component for me leans toward the floral side of things. It does get a little bit spicy the further into the aftertaste you go. You've got the grassiness there too, and a lovely kind of juicy, fruity character to this beer. So yeah, I do like how this one goes about its business. A really nice IPA, this one. So yeah, this is your second last beer tasting then here at Flumen Pub. So we'll take a second and we'll get on with our last one. So yeah, I thought this was pretty cool. They have these old kind of English style cask pumps here, and you can see if you go in, there are all the different kind of Flumen badges and things. But yeah, for a brewery that seems to kind of specialise a little bit more in lagers, this is not what you would expect, but still pretty cool. Alright guys, well, time for our fourth and final tasting then here at Flumen Pub. So the last beer that we're going to have a little look at in Croatian is called Tamno. Which kind of makes sense when you think about what they say in some of the other countries in this part of the world. You know, I know they say like Tmavi in the Czech Republic, for example. So yeah, this is, in English we would just say dark. But anyway, I'm not sure exactly what kind of beer this one is going to be, but it is a dark lager. Maybe it'll be a Doppelbock, a Dunkel, or you know, something like a Czech Tmavi or German Schwarzbier. We'll need to see. But anyway, you can see that this one has poured to be a lovely sort of dark ebony rosewood colour. So colour-wise, it really is leaning more towards the kind of Schwarzbier, Czech Tmavi side of things, the sort of black lager, if you like. When it poured though, it had a half finger of a frothy, I would say kind of fawn coloured head, very, very light beige. There are one or two big bubbles sticking toward the bottom of the glass there, a few little ones going up toward the bottom of that head, but overall it looks pretty nice. As I say, I'm not sure exactly what style this one is going to be, but in terms of what you would expect from a dark lager, you know, there's a spectrum out there. Sometimes they can be more mahogany, sometimes they can be a little bit more ebony and almost black like this one. So yeah, let's take a look at that aroma then and see how we get on. Ah, right, straight away, this one. This is either a Schwarzbier or a Czech Tmavi. It's a black lager beer, no doubt in my mind about that. And it actually smells very, very nice. Yeah, I really liked trying the Czech Tmavis in the Brewpubs when I was there. It was pretty awesome. But yeah, that's really lovely. Schwarzbiers for me, the main difference for me between Czech lagers and German lagers, the Czech ones are always a bit more kind of bready, creamy and smooth, whereas the German ones are just lighter and crisp. This one certainly has that big bready smoothness you would expect of the Czech variant. Again, remember the Czech Republic was also part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, so it wouldn't be surprising if some Czechs made their way down to Croatia to do a bit of brewing here, and so that influence is passed on. I very much suspect that is not far away from what happened. But yeah, anyway, let's tell you about the aroma of this beer. So, yeah, backbone of this one, a little bit of a roasty, toasty, well-fired bread crust. On top of that though, a very smooth, lovely sort of wholemeal brown bread, almost like a German rye bread, very much like that. Some nice brown sugary elements in here, a little bit of a toasty, caramelly sort of thing. Yeah, toasty, caramelly note, some biscuity notes as well, but you're also getting just a little bit of woody, nutty character out of this, maybe even a little bit of tobacco, something like that, like rolling tobacco. It's certainly got that sort of vibe about it, this beer. But absolutely, I can tell you straight away from the aroma of this one, this is like I'm pretty sure it's a checked Mavi. It is like that. Yeah, the breadiness, the brown breadiness in this beer is just lovely, I really like it. Yeah, this is pretty awesome. On the hoppy side of things, it's kind of what you'd expect. Little touch of earthiness, very, very slightly herbal, nice little bit of floral character too, but the green component for me leans toward that kind of fresh, grassy character. So potentially Slovenian or German hops in this one, but noble hops regardless. Yeah, this, as I say, it smells really nice. On the fruity side of things, for me, yeah, it's got a little bit of a raisiny note to it, a little bit of blackcurrant. Yeah, these are all things that you would expect of the Schwarz beer or the checked Mavi. But like I say, the thing that distinguishes this one, I think, from a German Schwarz beer is the big bready character and sort of creaminess that it has. That's more reminiscent of a checked Mavi, as to say, than the German Schwarz beer. But yeah, very nice aroma on this beer, I have to say. So let's get stuck into this one. This one is the Tamno in Croatian, dark in English. Again, I don't know what percentage this beer is, but yeah, we'll get stuck in. Slange, skål, cheers, zveli. That's really nice, actually. Yeah. I have to say, when I think about this style of beer, I actually prefer the checked Mavis over the German Schwarz beer. I think when you have a black lager like this, it feels a bit, it just has a little bit more depth to it, a little bit more flavour when it has these big, bready, yeasty characteristics. So yeah, I like this. It gets a thumbs up from me. Yeah, this is very nice. Yeah, big, smooth, brown bready, brown sugary lager beer, this one. So yeah, let's break it down. Backbone of the beer. You've got a little bit of a kind of woody character, a little bit of a dry woodiness forming the backbone of the beer. On top of that, there's a little bit of bread crust, absolutely. Then a big, thick, dense, sweet, brown bready sort of thing. As I say, like a German rye bread, but very big and very, very smooth in that case. As you move toward the kind of front of that middle third of your palate, there's a little bit of a woody sort of thing, maybe even a little touch nutty. It's almost a little bit like, the flavour of this one reminds me of the smell of tobacco. It's kind of like that. Yeah, it really, it goes together very nicely in that sense. On top of the big brown bready layer though, and as I say, the brown bread is quite dense in this one. You can feel there's like a little circle in the middle of your palate, toasty brown sugars. In the dead centre of your palate, it's like an oily caramel. That's the booziness of the beer. So you've got that oily brown sugar right in the middle of your palate. And as you move further out from that, it gets a little bit more like a toasty brown sugar, and you're just getting little elements of a, kind of biscuity, McVitie's digestive biscuity character out of this one toward the edge of the palate. On the hoppy side of things, back corners of the palate, it's certainly got a little touch of earthiness there. As you move further forward, it's got a little herbal note to it, and as you reach the front corners of the palate, you get a little bit of floral note there, but it's very smooth in its green component for sure. Round the front curve of the tongue, it's a little bit lighter and grassy, and the grassiness is very smooth. So yeah, definitely a sort of noble hop character, either German or Slovenian, I suspect. But yeah, on the fruity side of things, the front third of your palate, smooth brown bread underneath, then on top of that, that little oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters roll their way out of the beer. So yeah, when you take this one in, it has a little bit of sharpness to it, you get that little bit of raisiny character. At the back of that front third of your palate though, there's a little bit of a figgy sort of thing, and then as you move toward the front half of that front third of your palate, it's a little bit more black curranty and stuff like that. So you get a little bit of figgy note, a little bit of black currant. But yeah, the way that this goes together, I think, is really, really nice. Yeah, lovely light, just lovely light fruity characters to it. But this is a very nice Tmavi, very nice Czech Tmavi beer, this one. I really like how it goes together. Yeah, mouthfeel wise then, just to round off. Yeah, for me, top end of light bodied, carbonates is very smooth. It has that typical creaminess that you get from Czech style lager beers. IBUs, I think it's probably about 25-30 IBUs. Some of the bitterness, of course, is coming from the malty side of things. The malt base, as we said, though, a bit dry, a bit smooth, and also a bit sweet. There's a bit of everything in here. You have to get that balance right in a Tmavi or a Schwarz beer. But yeah, just a little bit of juicy, fruity character to it as well. Overall, this is really nice. So this was the Tamno, or dark, as it would be in English. No idea what ABV it is, as has been the case with all of these beers. But yeah, this has been a really nice one to round off with. I don't get to try Czech Tmavis all that much, but I'm certain that's what this beer is. But yeah, that is the end of our fourth tasting here. We'll go outside, I'll tell you my final thoughts on our time here at Flumen Pub, and that'll be the end of this one. So catch you guys in just a second. Alright guys, well that is my time up at the Flumen Pub here in Rijeka in Croatia. So yeah, just to tell you a little bit more about this place, apparently it was founded about 20 years ago when the current owner bought another pub which is quite far away from this one. They relocated here about 10 years ago, and the brewery is through the back of the bar from where we were sat. So yeah, it's just a very, very small brew pub actually. It's a very small kind of family operation. So always pretty cool to visit really random places like this. You won't be able to try the beers from Flumen anywhere else. But yeah, we got to try 4 different beers here. We had the Hefeweizen, the I forget the names of them now. We had the red, which was kind of like a Vienna lager. We had the dark, which was more like a Czech Tmavi, and we also had the IPA. All 4 of them were good. You know, they had this really kind of small batch brewed vibe about them. In total, it would have cost me 44 kroons, but Drago behind the bar was like, oh no, just pay for 3 and I'll cover the other one. So I gave him a bit of a tip, as I do as I've been doing so far in Croatia. But yeah, so 44 kroons would be like just shy of like €7, you know, €6.50, something like that. So about £6, $8 American, something like that. But yeah, I had a really nice time there. There you can see Drago just going back into the pub. But yeah, come and check out Flumen Pub if you find yourself in Rijeka. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed another little out and about video. I'll put the social media for Flumen Pub in the description for you below. Check out my social media, check out theirs. But I hope you've enjoyed another little out and about video here in Croatia. I'm probably getting sunburnt at this point, but yeah, I'll see you guys in another one very, very shortly. Slange just now, Zveli.